sir. Start, Ashwini. Please start. Ashwini, please unmute yourself. Open your video, start your video and start the session, please.
Hello. Hello. Ma'am, आवाज येतोय का?
Yes, you are audible. Yes, you are audible. Start.
Good evening to all. On behalf of Kriyashari Department, Dr. G.D. Paul Foundation, YMT Ayurvedic Medical College, I, Dr. Ashwini Barsagade, PG Scholar from Kriyashari Department. Welcome you all for the second day of webinar series, Pruspandanam, Cardiac Electrophysiology, with the blessing of Lord Dhanvantari. Let's start today's session, Vector Cardiogram. I request respected Dr. Raviraj Pardesi, sir, please take over to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. And I welcome all the participants for the second day of series on electrocardiophysiology. So let me share the screen. So today we will see and discuss about the concept of a vector and axis in ECG, electrocardiogram. So let us see the definition of a vector first. What is a vector in an ECG? So if we see the definition, it is defined as a vector is an arrow that points in the direction of the electrical potential generated by the current flow with the arrowhead in the positive direction. So yesterday we saw the concept of a potential, and in sequence to that only we will study the concept of a vector today. Now, if we see this definition, there are 2-3 terms which we had discussed yesterday. One is a potential, another is a current, a third one is a flow, and then we have one word over here which is an arrow, and then it is another word there which is a direction. So what this definition is saying that a vector is like an arrow which is pointing in the direction where the potential is generated. If this vector starts from this point and if the potential is being generated in this direction, then this vector will travel in this direction, pointing arrow to the direction where the potential or current is flowing. So here the flow of a current and the direction of that current matters. And by convention, the length of the arrow is drawn proportional to the voltage of the potential. So it may possible that the current is flown in different directions like this. But if we sum up the direction, it will be like this. This means that this vector is being directed in a forward direction from left to right. If the current is being flown in this direction like this, still we can draw a mean vector which is pointing its arrow towards left side or leftward. That means this length of the arrow is moving from right to left, and this is arrowhead. So in first case, the vector is moving to the right, and in second case, the vector is moving to the left. There is a new term over here, which is a resultant vector at any given instant. Like there are 4 chambers in the heart, and this SA node will generate impulse, and that impulse will travel into this atria, both atria. Then AV node will generate another impulse, which will be followed by the impulse of this sinus node here. The AV node will further propagate that impulse, and that impulse will get spreaded over this area. So this node has a particular direction of a current where it is flowing, and this node also has a particular direction or directions of current where it is flowing. And the current is flowing from the areas which are yet to be depolarized. Means the part which is depolarized first will generate current, and that current will further be propagated to the areas where the depolarization is yet to occur. So the direction of that overall current will be called as a resultant axis or a resultant vector that we will see. The electrical forces moving in a different direction, like if the AV node fires and sends current in this direction, this direction, this direction, and again current comes upward and covers the whole myocardium over here. So broadly, the current can be seen spreading all over the ventricles. But if we want to draw a mean vector, then we will have to draw a line along the direction where the total current is moving, and that direction of current is called as a mean vector. This figure will make your idea of instantaneous and mean vector clear. So this is a left ventricle and this is a right ventricle. The current has appeared in this septum first. This is an interventricular septum. The area which has become negative is yet to be depolarized, and these positive ions are making that area depolarized. So you can see that the current has moved to this area first, right? And then this is moving out from inside out, inside the heart. It is depolarizing the area which is there outside. So the direction of current is this, and then like this. But still we can draw a mean direction or instantaneous vector which is traveling from this point A to point B. So this, for us, this will be a mean vector or instantaneous vector. I hope this is clear. Now, if we try to see what angle this particular line or axis has, and if we keep that vector over here, then we will come to know that this particular vector has an angle of how much? Students? Anyone can unmute himself or herself and can answer. What is the degree of angle over here? Yes. Hello.
59 degree.
59 degree, right? So for the purpose of understanding, we will write it as a 60 degree, right? 60 degree. So this is a lead 2. We will see how this is lead 2. And then we can see that there is another vector which is having angle of a 120 degree. And there is one more vector which is having angle of a minus 100 degree, minus 100 degree. So this is 0, 90, 180 and 270. Now what decides the direction of a vector? So when a vector is exactly horizontal and directed toward the person's left side, the vector is said to extend in the direction of 0 degree. And this 0 degree is considered as a zero reference point. And from that point, other vectors are drawn. Like if this is a 0, and if I draw a vector over here, the angle will be 90 degree. If I draw a vector or axis over here, the angle will be, this angle will be 30. This is 60, this is 90 and so on. This lead one becomes our reference lead. So which arms, what are those two arms which forms lead one? Those who attended yesterday's lecture would be able to tell.
Connection between right arm and left arm.
Excellent. So right arm and left arm. So what we are assuming or considering that the current is flowing from right arm to left arm, means when a vector is exactly horizontal, here the vector is horizontal, it is a flat line and directed towards person's left side. So this is the left side. The current is moving from right arm to left arm. At that point of time, the vector or axis which is formed is considered as having angle of a 0 degree. So this is important. And we consider this 0 as a reference point over here. And from this 0, rest of the angles are determined or calculated. So when the vector extends from above and straight downward, it has a direction of plus 90 degree, as we saw at this place. It is a plus 90. When it extends from the person's left to right, it has a direction of 180 degree. And when it extends straight upward, it has a direction of a minus 90 or plus 270 degrees. Since the left ventricle makes up most of the heart muscle, yesterday I told you that left ventricle is thick. It has more number of muscle fibers and it is more organized. So the amount of current which flows into the left ventricle is maximum as compared to rest of the part in the heart. So that left ventricle will be receiving maximum current. And as you can see, the physiological vector is directed towards left ventricle only. If we draw the heart over this slide, then this will be left ventricle, which will be receiving maximum amount of current because it is required for contraction of left ventricle. So the direction of a current or axis has to be within certain degree of angle, and that normalcy is maintained when we say that the axis is between minus 30 degree to plus 90 degree. So this is considered as a normal axis. If the axis moves leftward means beyond this minus 90, then this is a deviation, left axis deviation. The axis or vector has moved toward the left, and at that time, the angle is minus 30 to minus 90 degree. If the vector moves rightwards, then the angle is from plus 90 degree to 180 degree. So when there is a right axis deviation, the current will move to this direction. When there is a left axis deviation, the direction of vector will be like this. And this is a normal QRS axis or normal axis. So left axis deviation, QRS axis less than minus 30. This is moving towards more negativity. right axis deviation when the angle moves greater than plus 90. And then there is extreme axis deviation, which is from minus 90 to plus 180 degree or so. So as we saw in normal heart, the average direction of the vector during spread of the depolarization wave through the ventricles is called as the mean QRS vector, and it is about 59 degrees. And this means that during most of the depolarization wave, the apex of the heart remains positive with respect to the base of the heart. So this is a heart, this is apex, and this area is a base. What this sentence is reading is that during most of the depolarization wave, the apex of the heart remains positive with respect to the base of the heart. So this area will remain depolarized on most of the time. So now ECG will calculate axis for each lead, and we will see how it is calculated for each standard bipolar lead. So we saw yesterday that each lead is actually a pair of electrodes connected to the body on opposite sides of the heart. And the direction from negative electrode to the positive electrode is called the axis of the lead. The lead 1 is recording potential differences from right arm and left arm. And as this is moving towards left, the angle over which it is recording electrical potential is considered as a 0 degree. So this is lead 1. We will be connecting one electrode over this point, right arm and left arm, right? And this will be the direction of current, which is a 0 degree over here. So lead 1, if it is carrying the current from this point to this point, means it is moving from negative to right, negative to positive electrode. What sort of a deflection will it record, students? Negative or positive? Yes.
Positive, sir, an upward
Positive.
deflection.
Why positive?
Because the current is moving towards the electrode.
Towards which electrode?
Positive electrode.
Towards
Left arm.
positive
Left arm
electrode.
is positive electrode.
Positive electrode. This is lead 2. If I want to get recording from lead 2, where I will have to put the electrodes? Anybody?
Left arm and left leg, left foot.
No.
Right arm and left foot, sir.
Yes, right arm and left foot. So this will form lead 2. And what is the degree of angle over here? By seeing this figure, you can tell
60 degrees.
60 degree. 60 degree. Again, yesterday we saw that this RA right arm is negative, negative. And left foot is positive, positive. So if the current is moving from right arm to left foot, again the recording will be, yes?
Positive.
Positive. The recording will be positive. We will come on to the third lead now. Now we will tell where the electrodes are to be placed.
Between left foot and left arm.
Left foot and left arm. So this is a lead 3. And what will be the angle which is formed?
120 degrees.
120. So left foot is a positive, positive. This is negative, negative. So if this is positive, then this has to be negative. Again, the current is moving from negative to positive. So again, the deflection which is recorded over a graph paper will be positive here also. So conventionally in healthy heart, most of the time, all three bipolar limb leads will record a positive QRS complex and positive P wave. So if you happen to see any ECG where the P wave is negative, so what you will think of? You will check whether the nurse or your assistant has placed those electrodes properly. If somebody connects this lead 3, so this is right, the lead which has to be placed over right arm, if it is placed over left arm, then this P wave, the configuration or deflection of this P wave may get altered. And whenever we read ECG, we must see that majority of the leads except AVR and V1 have positive P wave. And this is a rule. This has to be positive. If the P wave is negative in most of the leads, then it means that there is something wrong with the placement of electrode over the arms of a patient. So this was about lead 1, lead 2, and lead 3. So let us revise this. What is angle formed by lead 1? It is a 60 degree. Sorry, lead 1 wala 0, lead 2 60, and lead 3 120. So this was about a bipolar limb leads. Now we will see unipolar limb leads. So unipolar limb leads, as we saw yesterday, are recording potential from within that particular leads only, considering the opposite leads as a point of reference. They are negating the potential which is generated by other two electrodes and calculating the potential within themselves. That's why they are called as a augmented limb leads also. So as you see, this is a AVR. And this is a positive here, and downside there is a negative electrode. So what sort of a QRS deflection will it record as the current is moving from negative to positive? It should record positive deflection. But where the heart is situated? Heart is situated at this place. This is a heart. And in which direction the current generated in the heart or vector is moving? This is a direction along which the mean vector is going. So this lead, whether it is carrying the impulse in the same way where this vector is carrying the impulse, are both these directions same or opposite?
Opposite.
Opposite. These are opposite directions. This is going down and this is carrying current in an upward direction. So this lead AVR will record the negative deflection of all the waveforms. There will be negative P, there will be negative QRS complex, and there will be negative T wave. Can anybody tell me which other lead in the ECG will have negative deflection of PQRST?
V1, sir.
Yes, it will be V1. The answer is correct. Who is this?
Myself, Dr. Varuni from Bangalore, sir.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So V1 is placed over which area of the chest? It is placed over fourth intercostal space, right to the sternum. So it is seeing the heart from opposite direction. The current is going downward and it is seeing that current from opposite direction. So it will also record negative deflection. Either it will be negative or it will be biphasic, like this. Half of the area will be above the isoelectric line and half of the area will be below isoelectric line. So this is called as a biphasic. But here again the QRS will be negative and T wave will also be negative. So AVR and lead V1 will conventionally be recording negative waveforms of all the waves, almost all the waves. I hope this is clear up to this point. Now there is another augmented lead, which is AVF. And AVF, it is along the axis. It is along the vector. So it is carrying the current in the same way, almost in the same way or a direction as lead 2 is doing or as mean vector is doing. So it will also give rise to a positive waveform. So this AVF is this angle plus 90 degree. And where this AVL is situated over here. It is also seeing the heart from the point where it is facing the current directly. So mostly it will also record positive. So lead 1 and AVL both will record positive complexes. Means their recording will be above isoelectric line. This AVL is a part of a normal axis. What was our normal axis? It was this area. So AVL falls into the vicinity of a normal cardiac axis or a normal vector. So I hope this is clear up to this point. So can you all see this boy standing over here? Yes. So can you guess which this lead is? This is 1. Which this lead could be? Yes. This.
Lead 2. Sorry, lead 3.
No. No. This is
AVL,
placed
sir.
on left arm, no?
AVL.
AVL. So we will extend this to this point. This, rest of the students should also answer. What is this lead here?
ABR.
AVR. We will extend this line to this place. And what is this lead? Yes.
AVF.
No. This is AVF. This is AVF. This is lead 2. Right? So we will extend this over here. And which is remaining now?
Lead 3.
Lead 3. So this is lead 3. We will extend this to this point. Right? Yes. Now this will make the picture more clear. AVR, AVL, AVF, AVF. So AVF is having angle of a plus 90 degree. This is lead 3, which is having angle of 120. Lead 2, 60 degree. Lead 1, 0 degree. And likewise. Now, this is an exercise for you. Examine the QRS complex in each lead and determine if it is positive, isoelectric, or negative. So, isoelectric is also known as equiphasic. So, what we saw yesterday, that if the current is not moving and no waveform is formed, like if, so this is considered as a isoelectric waveform. But when the sum of the amplitudes above the isoelectric line and below the isoelectric line are equal, then it is called as a equiphasic. So if you calculate the small number of small squares over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And equally, you will see that there are 8 small boxes over here also. So this type of a morphology of a QRS complex is called as a equiphasic waveform or equiphasic QRS complex. If majority of the R wave is above the isoelectric line, then that QRS complex is considered as a positive QRS complex. where the amplitude of R wave is more than S wave. And if opposite is true, means the R wave is small and S is large than R, then that is termed as a negative QRS complex. So this whole is which wave? R or S?
R.
R. And in this complex, there is a R which is very small and this S is a very big. So if the S is big, then it is called as a negative QRS complex. If we see that there is a positive QRS in lead 1, a positive QRS in lead 1 puts the axis in roughly the same direction as lead 1. A positive QRS in lead AVF similarly align the axis with lead AVF. This we will see in detail. This. So if the QRS complex is positive in lead 1 and AVF also is having a positive QRS complex, this means that a person is having normal axis. Normal axis is from 0 to plus 90 or minus 30 to plus 90 degree. Now, what is a scenario in an ECG where there is a possible left axis deviation? The lead 1 is recording positive deflection and lead AVF is recording negative deflection. Now, this negativity is only for QRS complex. It is not for this P and T waves. P and T here are positive. It is the only QRS complex which is changing its direction. So this is lead 1 and this is lead AVF. So this is going up in lead 1 and in lead F it is going down. So what these leads are doing, they are leaving each other. So this leaving, L for leaving, and this L over here is for left axis deviation. So this is easy to remember. If lead 1 is having positive deflection and lead AVF or lead 3 is having negative deflection, that means that patient's axis is rotated towards left. And in clinical medicine, this is called as a left axis deviation. We will see what are the abnormalities where this left axis deviation is seen. Is this clear? Yes. Now, can you help me plotting the axis when the patient is having a right axis deviation? Right axis deviation, the lead 1 is how?
Negative.
Lead 1 is negative. Negative QRS and lead AVF. AVF is
Positive.
positive. This means that they are going towards each other. Earlier it was leaving each other. Now they are attracting. So we used the word L for leaving. And which word will be appropriate to be used over here? If you want to have something related to this R, earlier we used the word leaving. Now, which word we will be using? Reaching. So if they are reaching towards each other or reaching for each other, that means the patient's axis is what? Right. The axis has deviated to right side. So it will be right axis deviation. And what was the angle for right axis deviation? Anybody? Yes. plus 90 to 180. What does this mean? This means that the heart is rotated towards right. Normally, it should be like this. This is normal position of a heart. The maximum current was flowing. Yes. Now, what right axis deviation means that maximum forces are carrying the currents towards right side. That means there is a right axis deviation. We will see the clinical importance of this subsequently. So up to this point, is there any confusion? Because based on this, further understanding is depend. So you got this concept of a living and reaching?
Sir, can you please summarize this once again, please?
Living and reaching?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See, we will take two leads into consideration. Lead 1 and lead AVF and QRS complex. So there can be two scenarios where a QRS can be positive in lead 1. It can be negative in lead 1. This AVF can have negative QRS. It can have positive QRS. So if you have two patients where electrocardiogram is recorded and you are finding that these two different ECG have these particular types of waveform. In first patient, what you are seeing that these two QRS complexes are going away from each other. They are facing each other from opposite side. This means that they are leaving. They are going away. So lead 1 is a positive and lead 1 is positive and lead AVF is negative. So this scenario is this. So what this is a left axis deviation. Another patient's ECG shows that in lead 1, the recording of QRS is negative and the recording of AVF is positive. This means that these two leads are facing each other. They are trying to reach each other. So this reaching R and right axis deviation. So lead 1 is negative and lead AVF is positive. So this picture, this is this type of axis deviation. Is this clear now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes. So this is a simple first-hand calculation or a determination of axis. Now, can you all see this ECG? Yes. Here, can you all calculate the number of small squares the lead 1 and AVF has? I have magnified it for your reference. Can we all calculate the number of small square lead 1 has and lead AVF has as far as QRS complex is concerned? So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 7 squares up and 1, 2, 3. 3 squares down. So this plus 7 minus 3. So net deflection will be 7 minus 3, 4 millimeter. It means 0.4 millivolt. But we will remember this only for the purpose of calculation. Now, in a similar fashion, can you tell me how many small squares are there in this lead AVF? this 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 1. Total 16. 16. And there is a small deflection below the isoelectric line, -1. So 16 minus 1. Net deflection is 15 mm. 15 mm deflection is seen on the lead AVF, and the deflection on lead 1 is 4 mm. So keep these two figures in mind. So we will draw the line up to 4 millimeter on lead 1, because this is a voltage or amplitude which has been recorded by lead 1, and we will place that 4 mm distance over this lead 1. So from this point to this point, this is a +4, because our net deflection or net moment is a 4 mm only. Lead AVF, what was the amount of deflection? It was a 15 mm. And lead AVF points itself downward. So we will place this +15 centimeter mark along the line of AVF. You got this? From where this +4 has come? From this area. Is this clear, students?
Yes, sir.
And teachers? And from this 15, we will be placing on the lead AVF. Up to this point, is this clear? +4 plus 15. Now what we will do? We will join these 2 points, these and these, and we'll draw a line. And the midpoint of this line is a mean axis or mean vector, which is 60 degree. If you have understood this well, can you help me calculate the axis for this ECG? You can take your own time. So what is the net deflection in lead 1?
0.
0. And there are 5 squares up and 5 squares down. So 5 minus 5 is equal to 0. What about lead AVF? 5 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 or 4 something. 5, 5, 10, 4, 14, 3. This is a 17. And how many squares are down? Small square, 2. So 17 minus 2, it would be 15. Lead 1, 0. So it will be at this point. Lead AVF, 15. So we will draw the line up to 50 mm over here. And as there is no joining line, so the angle will be straight away 90 degree. Yes. What is the situation in these two, 1 and 2? Lead 1, almost 7. And lead AVF, or 8. 5, 3, 8. AVF, it is 1 square up, and this is 1 plus 5 plus 5, 11. So it would be 1 plus 1 minus 11. How much it would be?
-10.
Minus 10. Minus 10. Minus 10 on AVF. And plus 8 on lead 1. So it would be interesting to know. It has considered it as a +7. Let it be. So +7. So we will draw it towards the positive line. So that point will come at this place. Let me take another color over here, this. And AVF, so this is a positive line, but our count is negative. So where we will be plotting the axis? On the line which is heading towards negative electrode. So it would be placed above this isoelectric line at this point. So it will be minus 10 here. And if we join these 2 points and draw the axis, it would be in this direction. So in which angle it lies?
Left axis deviation.
Left axis. Left axis deviation. Yes. So from looking at ECG only, momentarily, in few seconds, you will be able to tell what particular axis this patient has. And this is important as far as interpretation of ECG is concerned. So you may have a patient which was where ECG was showing normal axis in the month of February, and if he or she has come to you in the month of March, his axis has changed. Means there is something going on inside the heart in terms of a change in the length or of muscle fiber, size of a chamber, or something which has caused damage to the heart, etc., etc. So the ECG should show the same vectors every time. If you have inpatients or IPD in your hospital, and if you are recording the ECG of a patient daily, all those ECG which are recorded daily should show same axis. If the axis changes, either the lead placement has been done wrongly by the sister or nurse, or there is some pathology which is going on, and it should be examined and treated accordingly. So is there any point, any doubt up to this point? So this, we saw what happens. Now we will see the core physiology behind it, how it happens. So as we saw that we have drawn the line over the axis up to 7 mm here, up to 10 mm here. And accordingly, we have drawn the vector. So this vector is important from both points of view, what magnitude it has and what is a direction. Magnitude of a current and a direction of a current, in which direction it is moving, and what is the strength of that movement. So you can see the red area or faint red area on this figure, which is a part of a ventricle. This is an interventricular septum, which is depolarized. And this rest of the area is yet to be depolarized. And if we want to see what is the instantaneous vector at this point, then we will be drawing a line on this axis, which is lead 1. And we can record the potential or a current generated by that particular vector when this much area of the ventricle is depolarized. The ventricle is not depolarized yet completely. As the current moves downward, after depolarizing this area, the current will spread into other parts of a heart. Now it has started depolarizing the right side of the heart. Means earlier the direction was this, and suddenly the direction has become like this. This means that earlier the positive deflection was being recorded, and after some time the axis or direction of the current may get changed. If this remains here for a particularly relatively longer time, then this will change the instantaneous vector or resultant vector. And if this stays here momentarily, then this will not change the resultant vector or instantaneous vector. I hope you got what I want to say. So when the vector in the heart is in direction almost perpendicular to the axis of a lead, the voltage recorded in the electrocardiogram of this lead is very low. And conversely, when the heart vector has almost exactly the same axis as the lead axis, essentially the entire voltage of the vector will be recorded. Means if the current is moving in this direction, it will record maximum voltage. And if the current is moving in a perpendicular direction, it will not record the voltage as much as it was recorded during the previous situation. Yes. Now concentrate on this figure. So what is a vector which is there on lead 1 from ABCD?
C.
No, lead 1.
Vector B.
Vector B.
B.
The projected vector B depicts the potential recorded at that instant in lead 1. And lead C is recorded by which line? Sorry, vector C?
Lead 2.
Second two.
Second.
Lead
Lead, yes. So this vector C is representing lead 2. And which vector is representing lead 3?
D.
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 Right. Now, yes. Now from looking at the figure itself, can you tell me which vector is the strongest among these three?
Vector C.
Vector
Yes.
C. Vector C. And which is smallest or weakest among these three?
D.
D.
Vector D.
D. Vector D. And vector D is there on lead 3.
Yes.
Right? So which lead will record the maximum deflection?
Lead 2. Lead
Exactly.
2. Yes.
Exactly. Great. And which lead will record minimum deflection?
Lead 3.
Lead 3. So if we want to draw ECG, lead 1, lead 2, and lead 3. So lead 3 will be recording minimum deflection of QRS. Lead 2 will be recording maximum. And this lead 1 will be recording the deflection in between. So can you roughly see that B is equal to A plus C? Sorry, lead 2 is equal to lead 1 plus lead 3. Or in other words, C is equal to B plus D. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
Is this concept clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So if you see any ECG and if you try to measure the amplitude in lead 1, 2, and 3 and try to sum up them, you will see that their sum is 0. Right? Mostly the lead 2 records maximum deflection. Maximum height of a QRS is seen in lead 2. And lead 1 and lead 3 will have a variable height of the QRS complexes. So this is a concept behind vector cardiogram. This I will not go into the detail because that is a complex. Now, till this point, we saw the vectors responsible for causing formation of a QRS complex. But there are other waveforms also which have an impact of a vector on them. And one of the other important waveform in ECG is a P wave. So as the depolarization of the ventricle started from the AV node, the SA node is responsible for depolarizing atria. And that depolarization begins in sinus node and spreads all over the atria. Even though the current spread all over the atria in all the direction, but net direction of the flow of current is towards the same degree of angle, that is 60 degree. So P wave will also record the positive deflection in all these three leads, 1, 2, and 3. So can you see here that lead 1, lead 2, and lead 3 all are having positive P wave. This is a characteristic feature of a P wave. So vector of current flow through the heart changes rapidly as the impulse spreads through the myocardium because it travels everywhere. And it changes in two aspects. First, the vector increases and decreases in length because of decreasing voltage of the vector. Magnitude changes, so the length will change. And second, the vector changes direction because of changes in the average direction of the electrical potential from the heart. This we will see here. So can you concentrate on the stepwise progression of flow of a current in ventricles? So lead 1, and you can see the area which is being depolarized or which is getting depolarized. This relatively dark red colored area is the area which is getting depolarized. Now, the point number 1 or step number 1, the current has depolarized the septum only. Step 2, there is a depolarization of area of both the ventricles, right and left. And this is the area where this bundle branches lies, right and left bundle. Step 3, the current will first depolarize the left part of a heart. So it will change its direction and will move leftward. And stage 5, where whole ventricle is depolarized. So depolarization means QRS wave will be formed like this. So when the current is at this place, this much wave is formed, means whole R wave is formed. So this is a length which is determined by what? Strength or magnitude of vector. The direction is upward only, but the power or strength was not that strong. Now, the area which is depolarized is much more. That means the strength of this vector is increased. So this increased strength will result into increase in the amplitude, and this will result into increase in the height of QRS, which you can see over here. Right? Or lead 1, accordingly, the lead 1 will record the QRS complex of a lesser height. Lead 2, as we just saw, the height of QRS will be more, and the picture which will appear in lead 3 will be like this. So roughly, the lead 2 is equal to lead 1 plus lead 3. So this is 0 reference point again. When the complete ventricle is depolarized, the base of the heart will be considered as a 0 reference point. So during most of the cycle of ventricular depolarization, the direction of the electrical potential is from the base of the ventricle towards the apex. This we have seen. And the mean electrical axis again of the normal ventricle is 59 degrees. And in many pathological conditions of the heart, this direction changes markedly, sometimes even to opposite poles of the heart. So this I have already covered, determining the electrical axis from standard leads, how we can determine the axis using lead 1 and lead 3 or lead 1 and lead AVF. Now we will see the application of this. What are the abnormalities or ventricular conductions which can cause axis deviation? So we have seen that the axis can swing even in the normal heart from about 20 degrees to about 100 degrees. And the causes can be many, like normal variations. Even patients can have axis deviations as a normal variant also, and which cannot be or which may not be pathological base. The causes of the normal variations are mainly anatomical differences in the Purkinje distribution system or in the musculature itself of different hearts. So if the axis is changing towards left or towards right, so what are the causes? If the heart itself is angulated to the left, the mean electrical axis of the heart also shifts to the left. And in what situations this can occur? This can occur at the end of a deep expiration. So if we exhale completely, the heart will come close to the chest. Maybe this is causing the current to be flown to the leftward direction, and the electrical axis will change and will become deviated to left. When a person lies down, because the abdominal content press upward against the diaphragm, that again will push the heart leftward, driving the electrical forces towards left, again causing left axis deviation. This is momentary. Once the person changes the position, this again will become normal. And if somebody is stocky or fat, and because of obesity, his or her diaphragm is pushing the content upward and pressing the heart, this also can cause left axis deviation. Similarly, angulation of the heart to the right side causes mean electrical axis of the ventricle to shift to the right. So causes will be opposite to this. At the end of deep inspiration, when a person stands up, and if somebody is tall, lanky, whose heart sinks downward, those patients, they also can have the right axis deviation, which at times can be a normal variant. Another significant abnormal condition, which is pathological, is hypertrophy of one ventricle. So if there is a left ventricular hypertrophy, the patient will have left axis deviation. Likewise, if the right ventricle is hypertrophied, the ECG can show right axis deviation. And there is a physiological basis for this, because for far greater quantity of muscle exists on the hypertrophied side. Hypertrophy means increase in the muscle mass. So if one chamber or one ventricle is enlarged or hypertrophied, that means there are more number of muscle fibers. And those muscle fibers will be carrying that much increased current and shifting the potential on that side. So if the patient is having left ventricular hypertrophy, his ECG will show that he or she has a left ventricular hypertrophy. Likewise, if the right side of the heart is hypertrophied, that means that right ventricle is causing a strong vector formation. And the strongness is as compared to the normal ventricle. This we will see. So you can see that in figure 1, the size of the left ventricle is normal. And in figure 2, there is hypertrophied left ventricle. So this hypertrophied left ventricle will have more number of myofibrils, and relatively there are lesser number of myofibril. So the current direction of current will flow in this direction. Majority of the current will be flowing to the left, causing leftward axis. So as we have seen, this is going up and this is going down. So what the word we used for this?
Leaving.
Leaving. Leaving means L for leaving. So if you see this sort of ECG, where the lead 1 is having positive recording and lead 3 or AVF is having negative recording, you should think that patient is having left axis deviation, and we should find out the cause. Now, what is the situation here? This is a left ventricle, this is a left ventricle, right ventricle, right ventricle. So this is a muscle mass of a right ventricle. And at this place, this is a muscle mass of. So figure A and figure B, where it is hypertrophied in figure B. So this is lead 1, lead 3. And what is the terminology which we saw here? 1 is like this and 3 is like this. So what they are doing?
Reaching.
Reaching. So reaching is for right
ventricular.
No. Right axis deviation. That means normally the left side of the heart receives more amount of current because it is strong, it is thick. In this situation, what has happened? In this condition, the right ventricle is enlarged. It is thick because it is hypertrophied. So majority of the current after coming to this point will be diverted to this area. So if we draw a mean vector, it will point out in this direction. The arrow of this vector will be pointed out to this direction, and this direction falls in the area of a right axis. Is this okay? Yes. Can you tell me any pathology which can cause right ventricular hypertrophy?
Any pathology, right ventricular.
Yes.
Tetralogy of Fallot.
Good. Any other example? Why tetralogy of Fallot? Because there is a stenosis of a pulmonary valve. So pulmonary valve stenosis is seen in tetralogy of Fallot. This is one of the component there. So if there is a pulmonary stenosis, will it cause obstruction to the outflow of blood from RV to pulmonary vein? Yes or no? If this is stenosed, then this will put strain on the RV because this valve is not opening easily. So RV will keep on pushing the blood through this opening. In order to do that, eventually over a period of months or years, it will become hypertrophic. And this can be seen as rightly answered by one of the students in tetralogy of Fallot. So the child will come with a complaint of a severe RV hypertrophy, pulmonary stenosis, overriding of the aorta, and ventricular septal defect. These are 4 abnormalities. Tetra means 4, which are seen in tetralogy of Fallot. So these children, they will have right axis deviation. Left axis deviation in left bundle branch block. Yesterday we saw that there are 2 branches, right bundle and left bundle, and this left bundle has 2 fascicles. Which are they? Yes. Anterior and posterior. Anterior and posterior. So if there is a left bundle branch block, means the impulse will not be carried out fast in left bundles. So it will take time. So time required for traveling the impulse into the left side heart of the heart will be more. So it will keep on projecting to the left side more than a normal axis. So this type of a pattern will be seen. Again, there is a leaving. One is going up, L is going down. But you can see one typical feature here in this ECG, that this QRS is notched. This angle is not sharp. This means that this QRS is wide. So if this width of QRS complex is more, means if it is around 0.16 second, 0.16 second, then we call it as a LBBB, intraventricular conduction delay. As the current is staying relatively for prolonged time on the left side of the heart, then it will cause the ECG to record the morphology like this. And this is seen in patients who have left bundle branch block. This I have told you, because of slowness of impulse conduction when the Purkinje system is blocked. Purkinje is a further extension of bundle branches. In addition to the excess deviation, the duration of the QRS complex is greatly prolonged. The width of the QRS will increase because of the extreme slowness of depolarization in the affected side of heart. So this will cause the axis to deviate to left. Also, when there is a LVH, left ventricular hypertrophy, there will be increase in the voltage in the limb lead also. You can see that the QRS complexes record in this ECG are all 1, 2, and 3. So if the total duration of all the QRS complexes in all these 3 leads exceeds 4 millivolt, then it is said that the patient is having left ventricular hypertrophy. And another peculiar feature which you see here is this hypertrophy. This we will discuss tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Normally the T wave should be upright like this, but this is inverted T wave here, and this is called as a strain pattern. Strain. This means that LV is experiencing or undergoing a strain because of hypertrophy, and that's why this T inversion is seen here. And this T inversion is in continuation with the S wave. So in this case, it is called as a terminal T wave inversion. T inversion. So this is also a feature of a left ventricular hypertrophy. Now we spoke about the increase in the strength or increase in the amplitude or voltage or length of a QRS complex. Now, can there be a decrease in the strength or a decrease in the length of a QRS complex? So there are some examples where we can see that the voltage is low. And when such situation is seen, it is considered that the patient's muscle is not able to contract with adequate force. And this is typically seen in patients who have myopathies, cardiomyopathies. So there are different types of cardiomyopathy, dilated cardiomyopathy, restrictive, constrictive, etc. So when the muscle doesn't exhibit force of a contraction, it is considered as a weak muscle then. Such patients have low EF. Normal ejection fraction is 60%. These myopathy patients, they will have significantly reduced EF ejection fraction, maybe 30% or 20% or so. And these patients usually have congestive cardiac failure or heart failure. So their ECG will record the waves which will be of a low voltage. So normally the QRS in lead 2 should be like this, even if it is negative. Lead 1 should record the voltage up to like this, up to this point, but this is not the case here. This means that there is a diminished muscle mass. There is no muscle mass because the patient has a myopathy. So whenever there is a less mass, sakshaya, there will be no muscle to propagate the impulse, to generate impulse further, and this will lead to a recording of a waveform which will be of a low voltage. So this is called as a low voltage ECG, which is a typical feature seen in cardiomyopathies. Now there are other conditions also which can cause a recording of a low voltage. Recording of low voltage, and the conditions can be in the area other than heart. Like the extracellular fluid is responsible for conducting impulses or electrical current with great ease. And if the fluid lying around the heart, if its volume changes, like in a patients who have pericardial effusion. So this is outer line of a heart and there is a pericardial fluid within this. The amount of this pericardium is 50 cc, I guess, roughly. So if this increases in size and if patients develop pericardial effusion, so there will be a fluid, all fluid in this area. and this will hamper the conductance of electricity. So even if the generation of the vector or amplitude of vector is normal, but since the ECG is being recorded by placing the electrodes over the body surface, this will record the QRS complexes which will be of a low voltage. The similar condition can be seen in patients with pulmonary emphysema, because there is a lot of lung which is trapped in the alveoli, and which will affect the conduction of electrical charge over the surface, and that patient will have ECG which will have low recording. You can see this ECG. The QRS complexes in all leads, they are of a low voltage. And another typical feature which you can see here is that there is alternate increase or alternate decrease of a height of a QRS. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. All the QRS complexes labeled 1 have more height than the QRS complexes labeled as 2. Can you all see this? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes or no? So this is called as electrical alternance. Electrical alternance. There is alternate decrease in the height of a QRS complex, and this is a typical ECG of a patient who has pericardial effusion. And if this effusion is too large, then it is called as a massive. So massive pericardial effusion, the patient's ECG will look like this, and this is a serious alarming condition. The patient needs to be subjected to emergency pericardiocentesis. All the fluid which is causing compression over heart or over the surrounding of heart, that compression can be removed only when this fluid is drained. So this is importance of diagnosing low voltage ECG. Now we have spoken.
Sir, why there is increase and decrease in the voltage, sir?
Have you heard the word cardiac tamponade?
Yes, sir.
Tamponade. Actually, we will cover this topic day after tomorrow. That time I will discuss this in detail. But when the patient is about to land into this situation, which is life-threatening, right? Because the ventricle needs to expand. For what? To get filled. So diastole will require a space, because they have to relax. So relaxation will require some sort of a space. And if there is a fluid around this pericardium, so this pericardium is not getting space for expansion, because that space is limited or getting compressed by the presence of this fluid surrounding over here, right? And this then causes this electrical alternance. This we will discuss in detail day after tomorrow when we will discuss myocardial infarctions, right?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes, yes. So till now we have seen about the height of QRS, whether it is a low or high, less or more. Now we will see the width of QRS complex. Like this is a normal QRS. If this is getting like this, it means the duration over which this QRS is formed is prolonged. And this is because of the prolonged conduction of the impulse through the ventricles. And this will cause prolonged QRS complex. And this can be seen when, again, the ventricles are hypertrophied or dilated. The normal QRS complex duration is 0.06 to 0.08 second. And if they are abnormally prolonged, then the patient is said to have either LVBB or RBBB. If these conditions cannot be defined exactly based on the criteria, then simply the general term which is used is intraventricular conduction delay. Intraventricular conduction delay. So you can see that this ECG has a wide QRS everywhere. This is the duration of QRS. Usually the QRS should be this much, 0.08 second or 0.09 second. But if it is exceeding than 0.11 second, then we label it as a IVCD, intraventricular conduction delay. And this can be seen in patients where there is a problem with conduction of impulses in Purkinje fibers. Now in this slide, you can see that all the QRS complexes, they have the width which is prolonged. This, and this. So there is this first deflection is a QRS. QR, there is no S here. This is R first, then it is S. This is a Q, this is a big R. And likewise. So these all have width which is more than normal, and it is broadly classified as a intraventricular conduction delay. If this width is more than 0.16, then it is a LBBB. If it is around 0.14, then it is a RBBB, right bundle branch block. Right? And why this diagnosis of blocks is important? Because it helps us determine the prognosis of a patient. New onset left bundle branch block in a case of acute myocardial infarction is dangerous because it has injured significant muscle mass. That's why along with ST elevation, these patients, they will have LVBB also. So acute MI with LVBB, the prognosis is worst. And there are many things which helps cardiologists determine the prognosis of the patient, and depending on the findings, the type of treatment is offered, whether it is a thrombolysis or primary angioplasty, etc., etc. So I guess I have covered whatever minimum is possible for me to share with you all. One place where I probably have given the wrong information to you people is, let me see. That formation of a voltage in subsequent lead, no? Yes, this. So this recording, difference in recording was because of the recording in different leads. So I think I should stop here. If there are any questions, you can ask. Actually, this is a complex topic, even for understanding and for explaining also. But I tried to make it as simple as possible. So we have still 5 minutes left. If there are any questions, and if I can answer those, I will. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So,
are there any queries? Participants, please reply in the chat box. I think during the lecture only participants have asked their queries. So I think there are no more. So, Dr. Ashwini, please, will you please take over?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, ma'am. Just one small question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, in intraventricular conduction delay, will the isoelectric line after the P wave is extended, sir? Is it long?
Come again, please.
After P wave, a small isoelectric line is there, and then QRS wave begins, no? So in case of IVCD, is this isoelectric line lengthier, sir?
No. Isoelectric line is a line on
X-axis.
ECG graph, ECG paper. So
Hmm.
this is isoelectric line. And so in case of intraventricular conduction delay, if this is a normal QRS complex, the IVCD will look like this. This is a width of a QRS which is increased. And this isoelectric line is going like this. Here also it is like this. So what is your question?
No, the small line after P wave before beginning of Q wave, will that be extended? That is what.
No,
that was
no,
my
no, 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 no. Because
It is
we
just
are,
wide QRS.
no, yes, we are only calling it as an intraventricular conduction delay. The condition which you are talking about is a prolonged PR.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is a different scenario. Normal PQRS complex is like this. So this is
Yes, sir.
PR interval, which is 0.12 to 0.20 seconds. And
Yes, sir.
if this exceeds more than 0.20, then it is called as a heart block. First degree heart block. This is prolonged PR. This is not the case in IVCD. This delay is in the conduction among the ventricular fibers only. So this IVCD has nothing to do with PR interval.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
The PR interval will remain normal. Whatever change will be observed in IVCD will be in the width of QRS complex. And this IVCD can be there in RBBV also and LBBV also.
Understood, sir. Thank you so much, sir. You have simplified this topic so much and you have explained it very beautifully, sir. Thank you so much.
I am also still in learning phase because this is vast, and as we are from the branch of Ayurveda, it becomes really difficult to study this.
Yes, sir. I myself, I am a professor working as a faculty here, and every time this topic appears as a fresh new thing, even though I am teaching since 10 years the same topic.
So I hope I have helped to you understanding.
Definitely,
this.
sir.
Yes.
I am very happy, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. All the students, my teachers, organizers, and Department of Physiology at YMT Medical College, Yerla Khargar.
Dr. Ashwini, please take over.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Dr. Ujjwala More ma'am to take over.
Yes. Thank you, Ashwini. On behalf of YMT Ayurvedic Medical College and Kriyashari Department, I am Dr. Ujjwala Gokural. Thankful to Dr. Raviraj Pardeshi sir for delivering such a very informative and wonderful lecture. I hope all participants must have gained knowledge from this lecture. Thank you, Pardeshi sir. I now declare that today's session is over. We will meet tomorrow at the same time. Thank you, sir.
So tomorrow
thank you
we
all
will discuss.
participants.
Yes, we will start with the waveforms and interval first, and then we will continue with the conduction abnormality. So today's session is also important, wherein we will talk about the bradycardia, tachycardia, and arrhythmias like ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation, etc., etc. So please attend tomorrow's topic also.
Okay.
So thank you, one and all.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, good day.
Thank you, sir.